My name is Lorraine Whitaker. I'm 76 years old, a retired schoolteacher, and I live in a quiet town just outside Montgomery, Alabama. I spent over 40 years teaching literature to teenagers who thought Romeo and Juliet was just another old love story. I've seen life. I've buried 2 sisters. I've raised 3 children. I've learned to live alone. But nothing prepared me for what I saw in my own kitchen that night. I had been away for 3 days. A women's leadership conference in Charleston, an event I never imagined I'd attend at my age, but my pastor's wife had insisted. "Miss Lorraine," she'd said, "your story matters. Women need to hear your voice." So I packed up my little suitcase, put on my Sunday shoes, and let myself believe that maybe I still had something to give this world. Before I left, I did what I always do. I made sure the house was in order. My husband Roy, a once dashing man now bent with age and silence, had promised to behave. We'd been married 52 years. We shared a bed. We shared a home. But we hadn't shared a real conversation in over a decade. Then there was Rosa, my housemaid. A quiet, sweet girl from New Mexico, barely 25, who cleaned and helped with the laundry. She had a calm spirit, like sunlight coming through a window on a cold day. She never raised her voice, never came late, never left a dish unwashed. I trusted her in my home. The flight back was delayed. Storm, I think. I landed late and took a taxi home, wheeling my small bag behind me, aching to get off my swollen feet. The porch light was on. The curtains in the living room were drawn. Everything looked peaceful from the outside. I unlocked the door and stepped in. The house was too quiet. No TV. No murmuring. Just silence. I could smell something, cinnamon and something else. Sweat? That's when I heard it. Faint whimper. Soft no. Froze. The sound came from the kitchen. I walked slowly, my heart thudding. The closer I got, the clearer the voices became. And then I saw. There against the counter was Rosa. And Roy. His hands were on her. Her eyes were red. Her blouse was torn. She looked at me, terrified, as if I were a ghost. Roy didn't notice me at first. His hand was around her wrist. She was trying to pull away. And I couldn't breathe. My legs gave way. I dropped my purse. My head hit the floor. And everything went black. Before we go any further, let me welcome you properly. If you're watching this right now, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining me. This story you're about to hear isn't just mine. It's for every woman who's ever been silenced, ignored, or betrayed by the very people she trusted most. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on your notifications so you never miss another emotional story like this one. Also, I'd love to know, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. Let's see how many strong souls are out there across this country standing together. Now, what happened after I fainted on that cold kitchen floor? Well, let's just say that was only the beginning. I woke up to the smell of ammonia and the sharp sting of a cold rag on my forehead. My head pounded, my mouth was dry, and for a few seconds I had no idea where I was. Then the memory hit me like a truck. The kitchen. Rosa. Roy. His hands. Her face. I gasped and sat up too fast. "Easy, Miss Lorraine," came a shaky voice. "Please don't move too quick." It was Rosa. She was kneeling beside me on the kitchen floor, holding a towel to my head. Her eyes were swollen but dry now. Her hands trembled. She wouldn't look at me for more than a second at a time. I looked around. Roy was gone. "Where is he?" I asked, my voice low and sharp like a snapped twig. "He left," she whispered. "Ran out the back door after you fainted." He didn't say a word. I sat there in silence, staring at the tile beneath me, the same tile I'd scrubbed clean 100 times before. The house was still quiet, but now it felt hollow, like something sacred had been ripped away. I reached for Rosa's hand. "Are you okay, baby?" She hesitated. Then she nodded barely. But I could see the truth. She wasn't okay. And neither was I. I struggled to stand. Every bone in my body ached. I braced myself against the counter. My mind raced. Do I call the police? Do I call my daughter? My pastor? Do I scream? Do I pretend it didn't happen? But one thing I knew, I was not going to let this be buried. Not this. Not again. Because this wasn't the first betrayal I'd ever faced in this house. Not by a long shot. 40 years ago, Roy Whittaker had been the kind of man who made women giggle behind him books at church. Tall, charming, always had a toothpick between his lips and a joke in his back pocket. We got married young. I thought I was the lucky one. I didn't know what loneliness really was until about 10 years into the marriage, when he stopped talking to me unless I asked what he wanted for dinner. He cheated back then too, once that I knew of. A secretary from his job at the county clerk's office. I found out by accident when I saw a note in his jacket pocket, written in lavender ink. "You're better than your wife." I had 3 kids at the time. No job. No savings. No place to run to. Stayed. Now, decades later, he was a retired man with a short temper and long silences, barely looked me in the eye anymore. And I had learned to live with that. But this was different. This was violence. Against a girl who worked for us. In my house. While I was away trying to find purpose in my golden years. He was here. Taking advantage of someone I considered family. I sat Rosa down at the dining table and made her a warm cup of tea. I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't fix what had already happened, but I could let her know she wasn't alone. "You're not staying here tonight," I said. "You'll sleep at my friend Mavis's place across town. I'll take you myself." Rosa shook her head. "I don't want trouble." "You're not the one who made trouble," I said, steady now. "He is." Her lip quivered, but she nodded. That night, after I dropped Rosa off safely, I sat in the parking lot of a 24-hour diner, gripping the steering wheel until my hands cramped. My phone rang once. Boy. I didn't answer. I stared into the darkness and thought about all the times I'd chosen peace over confrontation. About all the quiet sufferings, the whispered prayers, the swallowed screams. Not this time. This time I was going to fight. But I wasn't going to fight like him. I was going to do it my way. Quiet. Thoughtful. Permanent. Because when a woman my age stands up, she doesn't need to yell. She just needs to be heard. Sunday morning came too fast. Normally, I would have worn my blue hat and sat in the third pew from the front, next to my friend Hattie. I would have smiled politely during announcements and clapped softly during choir. I would have prayed for other people's problems and said I was doing just fine. But that Sunday I didn't go inside the church. Parked out back and waited. Not for God. Not for forgiveness. For Mavis. She was the only person I could trust with this. Mavis Adkins had been my best friend since we were 10. We used to ride bicycles barefoot through cotton fields and skip school to eat biscuits at her grandma's. We'd grown old together, survived widowhood, heartbreak, and a few medical scares. If anyone could handle the truth, it was her. I spotted her coming out the side entrance after Sunday school, wearing that same floral dress she always wore when she didn't feel like ironing. I stepped out of the car. "Lorraine," she said, surprised. "You didn't come in." I looked around. No one was nearby. "Get in, please. I need to talk." Her eyes narrowed. She knew that tone. It was the one I used the day I told her my son was addicted to pills. The day I told her Roy hit me once. Just once. Back in '87. She climbed in the passenger seat. "You're scaring me," she said gently. I stared at the steering wheel. My voice cracked. "I came home from that conference. And I found Roy. In the kitchen with Rosa." Mavis's lips parted, but she didn't speak. "He was hurting her," I whispered. "His hands were all over her. Fainted. Woke up on the floor." Mavis covered her mouth. "Dear Lord." I kept going because if I didn't say it out loud, it would start rotting inside me. She was crying. Her shirt was torn. "He ran off after I passed out. He hasn't come back. He's not answering." Silence. Then Mavis asked the question I hadn't dared face. "Are you going to report him?" I shook my head slowly. "Not yet. I need a plan. I need to protect Rosa. I need time." Mavis sat back, crossing her arms. Well, you've got time. You've got me. And if you want to burn it all down, I'll bring the match. I looked at her, startled. But she meant it. Her eyes were full of fire. Righteous fire. First things first, I said. I want to know where he went. I want to know who he's talking to. I want to know if this is the first time. Mavis nodded. Then you need someone who can dig. I've got someone, I said. Remember my granddaughter's boyfriend? Travis. He smirked. That awkward white boy with the computers. He works in IT security now. He owes me a favor. We both paused. The sun was high now, pouring heat through the windshield. I don't want to hurt him, I said softly. But I can't let this go. Mavis reached over and gripped my hand. He hurt you, Lorraine. And he hurt that girl. There's no going back now. Only forward. As she got out of the car and walked away, I watched her fade into the Sunday crowd, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel old. I didn't feel forgotten. Felt alive. 'Cause now I had a mission. And no one underestimates an old woman on a mission. I hadn't seen Travis since Christmas dinner, when he brought his own vegan lasagna and ate it like it was the best thing ever made. He was my granddaughter Kaylee's boyfriend. Skinny as a twig, awkward as a newborn colt, but smart in ways that made the rest of us feel like we were living in the Stone Age. I called him that afternoon. Hey, Miss Lorraine, he said, surprised. Everything okay? No, sweetheart. Not really. I need your help. It's serious. He drove down that same evening in his dented old Prius, carrying 2 laptops, a portable hard drive, and a brown paper bag filled with something that smelled like burnt lentils. We sat in my sunroom. I made sweet tea. He drank oat milk. I told him everything, carefully. I didn't give him every detail, but enough to make his smile disappear. So, you want to track Roy, he asked. I want to know where he's been, who he's been calling, and if this has happened before. Can you do that? Travis tapped a few keys, his brows knitting. If he's been using the home Wi-Fi, maybe. His phone might have left a trail. And if he emailed anyone or logged into any accounts on your laptop or iPad, I might find something. Start with the email, I said. He uses my old desktop in the study. He never learned how to set up his own. He nodded and got to work. I watched him scroll, click, type. His fingers danced like he was playing piano. Felt sick. My mouth was dry again. Every click was a hammer driving a nail into the life I thought I had. Then Travis stopped. Miss Lorraine. My stomach dropped. What is it? He turned the screen to me. Roy had a secret email account. And in it, there were photos. I couldn't look. I didn't need to. Travis scrolled through file names. They were dated. One from 2 weeks ago. Another from last month. Another from last year. Rosa? Yes. He nodded. All of them. And there are messages. Sent to someone else. Who? Someone named E. Sanders. I don't know the real name yet. But it's not just one message. He's been sharing things. Talking about enjoying the help. Talking like Rosa was. He didn't finish. He didn't have to. I stood up, heart pounding, tears rising hot and fast. I need everything printed, I said. Every file. Every email. I want it in my hands. He nodded. Are you going to the police? Not yet. I need to talk to Rosa first. This has to be her choice too. Travis hesitated. You could go now. With this, they'd take it seriously. I know, I said, calmer than I felt. But sometimes when men like Roy fall, they drag everyone down with them. I won't let Rosa be another casualty. He sat back and studied me for a long moment. You're really something, Miss Lorraine. No, I said. I'm just tired of pretending I'm not. He smiled a little. If you ever want to learn how to encrypt your emails or hide your search history, I teach classes on Tuesday nights. I almost laughed. Almost. Let's take down a monster first. Then you can teach me how to play spy. That night, I sat by the window with a folder in my lap. Inside were printouts of every dirty secret Roy had hidden from me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared out at the street waiting. Because deep down I knew he'd be back. And when he did, I'd be ready. It was Thursday evening. The sky was bruised purple, and a storm was gathering in the trees. I was sitting at my kitchen table, same place it all began, with the folder Travis gave me. My tea had gone cold. My mind was sharp. Then I heard it. The front door. Key turning. Low. Bushes. I didn't move. I wanted to see how he'd walk in, like a man with excuses or a man with guilt. Roy stepped inside wearing the same shirt he'd had on when I last saw him. It was wrinkled. His hair was uncombed. His eyes landed on me like I was a stranger in his own house. "Lorraine," he muttered. I didn't answer. He set his bag down by the wall and leaned on the entry table like he needed the support. "I didn't mean for that to happen." That was the first thing he said. Not "I'm sorry." Not "How are you?" Not "I was wrong." Just, "I didn't mean for that to happen." I stood up slowly, my hands resting on the chair. "You didn't mean to assault a girl in our kitchen." He flinched. That word stung him. Assault. She misunderstood. I slammed the folder on the table. "No," I said. "You misunderstood. You thought I'd be too old, too tired, too loyal to fight back. You thought because I've kept your secrets before, I'd do it again." His eyes darted to the folder. "What's that?" "Everything," I said calmly. "Your emails. Photos. The messages to that man, Sanders. Or whoever he is. You documented your own sickness like you wanted to be caught." Roy's mouth tightened. "I was lonely," he said. "You've been distant for years." I laughed bitterly. "Don't you dare lay this at my feet. I stayed through your silence, your coldness, your wandering eye. I stayed when I should have run. And you think my distance excuses that?" He looked around the room like it was burning. "I didn't hurt her." "You hurt me," I said. "You ruined the last bit of dignity I thought this marriage had left." Silence fell like a curtain between us. I picked up the folder and stepped toward him. "You have two choices, Roy. You go to the police yourself and confess. Or I do. Either way, this ends now." He stepped back, panicked. "You wouldn't." I held the folder tighter. "Try me." His face changed then. The mask cracked. The calm shattered. For the first time I saw the real Roy. Not the husband, not the provider, but the man who believed he was untouchable. "You'll ruin me." "You already ruined yourself," I said. "I'm just cleaning up the mess." He opened his mouth again, but I was done. "You have 24 hours. I turned and walked away. He didn't follow. That night, I didn't sleep in the bedroom. I sat in Rosa's old room, praying she'd agree to press charges. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but I knew one thing for sure. The Lorraine Whitaker who accepted silence. She died on that kitchen floor. And the woman who got up. She was ready to burn the whole lie down to the foundation if it meant freedom. For herself, for Rosa, and for every girl no one believed. The next morning I drove to Rosa's safe place. Mavis's cottage on Oakleaf Lane, just past the railroad tracks. The sky was soft gray, and the air smelled like rain and magnolia. A storm had passed, but the clouds still lingered like the tension in my chest. Mavis opened the door before I could knock. "She's in the back. Been sitting by the window all morning." I walked through the house, my heart heavy with fear, but also with something new. Oh, hope that Rosa would be ready. Hope that I wasn't alone in this fight. She was sitting on the old porch swing, knees pulled to her chest, a blanket around her shoulders. "Hey, baby," I said gently. She turned her head. Her face was pale but calm. "Hi, Miss Lorraine." I sat beside her. The swing creaked under our weight. "I need to tell you something," I said. She nodded, eyes on the horizon. "I found things. Emails. Messages. Pictures he took without your knowledge." Her shoulders stiffened. "I have enough to report him. Enough for the law to take it seriously. But I won't do anything without your permission." Silence. A bird chirped somewhere in the trees. Then Rosa spoke. I thought maybe it was just me, she said quietly. That maybe I misunderstood. That maybe I was overreacting. You weren't, I said firmly. He's done this before. More than once. She turned to me, eyes wide. I have proof. Messages. He's been targeting women like you. Vulnerable. Alone. Silenced. She swallowed. You believe me. With everything in me. Her lip trembled. No one ever believed me before. Not when it happened back home. Not when I told the last woman I worked for. My throat tightened. Well, they were wrong. And now, you've got me. She looked down at her hands. What if people don't care? What if they say I led him on? That I wanted it? They might, I said. But they'd be wrong. And I'll be right there beside you every step of the way. I promise. Long pause. Then, Rosa did something I hadn't seen her do since that awful night. She nodded. I'll do it, she whispered. I want to tell my truth. Tears welled in my eyes. I reached over and held her hand, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt the power shift. Not in revenge. Not in rage. In righteousness. We went to the police station that afternoon. She told her story. I backed her with everything I had. Emails, prints, timestamps. They listened. For once, they listened. An officer named Detective Hayes, a woman in her early 40s with kind eyes and a voice that didn't flinch, promised us they would investigate swiftly. He won't get away with this, she said. Not on my watch. That night, back at home, I found Roy packing a suitcase. He didn't speak. I didn't either. He looked at me once. No hate, no begging. Just a look of a man who knew the walls were closing in. He walked out the front door without a word. And for the first time in 52 years, I didn't feel abandoned. Felt free. A week passed. Then two. The house was quieter than ever. No Rosa's soft footsteps in the morning. No Roy's humming in the garage. Just me, my thoughts, and the tick of the old kitchen clock. People in town began to whisper. It started with Mavis overhearing something at the grocery store. Did you hear Lorraine's husband got arrested? Rosa. That housemaid girl. I knew something was off. By the time I showed up to church again, every head turned when I walked through the door. Some nodded politely. Others avoided my eyes. Hattie, bless her heart, pulled me into the pew like nothing had happened. But it had. Rosa's case was under active investigation. The detectives confirmed at least 2 other women had worked for Roy in the past. Both had left suddenly. One moved out of state. The other changed her name. When the news hit local TV, it was a short segment, buried between weather updates and city council debates. Local man under investigation for multiple allegations of harassment and assault involving domestic workers. They didn't name Roy at first. But everybody knew. And suddenly, the silence I'd lived with for 50 years was being cracked wide open. Rosa came over one evening. She had a look in her eyes that scared me. I don't want to do this anymore, she said, pacing the living room. They're asking questions like I'm the criminal. They said I should have screamed louder. That I should have fought back. I stood slowly. Sit down, baby. I didn't. I knew this would happen, she said. He's a respected man. I'm just the maid. Nobody believes girls like me. I stepped toward her. I believe you. And it's not just your story anymore. It's all of ours. Every woman who was ever touched, silenced, ignored. You don't owe anyone a perfect version of pain to be worthy of justice. Tears welled in her eyes. What if I lose? I reached into the drawer and pulled out the photo of my 23-year-old self on my wedding day. I've lost before, I said. But I never fought like this. You're already braver than I ever was. She finally sat, crumpling into my arms. I'm scared. I know, I whispered. That's how you know you're doing something that matters. 2 days later, the detective called. Charges are being filed, she said. There's enough. We're moving forward. I hung up and sat in silence. The justice system isn't perfect. I know that. I've seen good men go to prison for nothing, and bad ones walk free with a handshake. But this time, at least something was happening. And for Rosa, that meant the world. The day Roy was officially booked, he stood in the courtroom in a tan suit that looked too big for him. His hands were shaking. I was in the back, with Mavis holding my hand like she did when we were girls hiding from our parents after sneaking out at night. He didn't turn to look at me. He didn't need to. 'Cause he knew. The woman he thought would never fight back. She was the reason he was standing there. Not with hate. Not with vengeance. But with truth. And that kind of truth doesn't whisper. It roars. A week after Roy's arraignment, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name in tight, slanted handwriting I hadn't seen in years. Inside was a single sheet of paper. I heard what happened. I'm sorry it took me this long to say something. He did it to me too. Jay. I sat at the table, hands trembling. Janine. She worked for us in the late 90s. She was only 18. I remember how she disappeared one day, left without picking up her last paycheck. Roy had told me she got homesick and ran off. But he lied. I read the letter 3 more times, each word cutting deeper. How many had there been? How many girls had passed through our home while I cooked Sunday dinners and folded towels, blind to the predator walking through my halls? That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in the den with my photo albums, flipping through decades of smiles, birthdays, cookouts, grandbabies. I searched the background of every photo, trying to remember the faces of the women who once cleaned my kitchen or ironed my dresses. And I wondered, how many of them carried this pain in silence? The next morning I called Detective Hayes. "We have another," I said, reading Janine's letter aloud. She didn't sign her full name, but I know who it is. Hayes listened, quiet and steady. "We'll try to locate her. But this helps us. It shows a pattern." After I hung up, I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened my prayer journal. I hadn't written in it since Roy's first affair, the one I forgave and buried. But now I needed to speak to someone higher than myself. I wrote, "Lord, I let the wrong things slide. I trusted where I should have questioned. But give me strength to see this through. Not for vengeance. For the girls. For me." That afternoon, Rosa and I sat on the porch. She was slowly coming back to life. Reading books, helping Mavis in the garden. She still flinched when the wind slammed a door, but she laughed more now. We watched the mail truck roll by. "I got a letter today," I said. "From Janine." Rosa turned to me. She said Roy hurt her too. Rosa was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "I'm glad she said something. Even if it took years. She helped us without knowing it," I said. "Her voice added weight to yours. That matters." Rosa looked out at the trees. "I keep thinking about what comes next. Not just court. I mean life. After all this." I smiled softly. "That's the hardest part. Living again. But it's also the most powerful." She turned to me. "Do you think I'll ever feel normal?" I took her hand. "You won't feel like you used to. But maybe that's not a bad thing. You'll feel stronger. Wiser. More alive. And maybe one day you'll help another girl find her voice too." A soft breeze rolled through. A squirrel ran across the lawn. Somewhere, a neighbor's child laughed. Life was still happening. Even after all the wreckage. And I knew right then we weren't just surviving. We were rebuilding. 3 days before the court date, my daughter Lydia showed up unannounced. She came in hot, heels clicking across the porch like a gavel, purse swinging on her arm, and a scowl only daughters can wear when they think their mother's lost her mind. "I need to talk to you," she said, standing in my living room like she owned it. "Hello to you too," I said. She dropped her purse and crossed her arms. "Mom, this thing with Dad, it's getting out of hand. People are talking. The family's embarrassed. The church board is saying they might take his name off the community wall." I leaned against the fireplace. "Good. They should." She blinked, stunned. "You want that?" I want the truth to matter, even if it makes people uncomfortable. Lydia stepped closer. Do you even know what this is doing to your reputation? People think you've gone bitter. That you're airing dirty laundry for revenge. I felt my chest tighten. Not from pain. From rage. I spent 52 years protecting him, Lydia. Protecting you. While he lied. While he prayed. While I kept this family's name clean. And you know what it got me? A kitchen floor and a cracked skull. A girl crying in my house. Lydia's eyes began to well. I didn't know. I know you didn't. But now you do. So what are you going to do with it? She sank onto the couch, suddenly small. I thought he loved you. I sat beside her, my voice softer now. He did. In his own broken way. But love without accountability isn't love. It's control. I sniff. What happens next? I looked out the window. We go to court. We tell the truth. We let the chips fall where they may. Lydia nodded. Slowly. Then she said something that nearly broke me. I'm proud of you, Mama. That night, I opened a box I hadn't touched in years. Inside were journals, photos, and a wedding ring I stopped wearing long ago. I ran my finger over the gold band, remembering the girl I used to be. Hopeful, wide-eyed, ready to love forever. I placed the ring back in the box. That chapter was over. The next morning I got a call from Detective Hayes. There's been a development, she said. My heart skipped. What kind of development? One of Roy's past employers came forward. Said she fired him over an incident with a receptionist 20 years ago. No charges were filed, but there's a record of the complaint. Closed my eyes. That helps, doesn't it? It helps a lot, she said. It shows a pattern of behavior over decades. I thanked her and hung up. Roy had left a trail of quiet destruction for years. Buried behind polite handshakes, church smiles, and a man-of-the-house title. But now the truth was rising. And there was no more room under the rug. 2 days to court. The house was cleaner than ever. But it didn't feel like home anymore. Felt like a battlefield. One I had walked across for decades without knowing where the landmines were. But now I saw them all. And I was walking forward. Eyes open, shoulders square, unafraid. The courthouse smelled like cold coffee and paper. I sat in the third row behind the prosecutor's table, wearing my navy blue suit, the one I'd worn to Kaylee's graduation and my sister's funeral. It was the only thing I owned that made me feel both elegant and armored. Rosa sat beside me, her hands trembling in her lap. She wore a soft cream blouse, no makeup, hair pulled back. Her eyes scanned the courtroom like a bird looking for a place to land. It's okay to be scared, I whispered. She nodded. I'm scared. But I'm not running. That girl had more courage than most grown men I'd met in my lifetime. Roy sat across the room. In a gray suit. No tie. Surrounded by a defense team that looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. He didn't look at me. Didn't look at Rosa. Just stared straight ahead like if he focused hard enough, maybe none of it would be real. The judge came in. Court began. Testimonies were read. Evidence was shown. Emails, photos, messages, letters from past victims, now verified. Janine even submitted a statement. Travis's digital records became the cornerstone of the case. Then it was Rosa's turn. She walked to the stand like her legs weighed 100 pounds. But when she spoke, her voice was clear. I was afraid, she told the courtroom. But Miss Lorraine stood up for me. And that's when I realized I could stand up for myself too. I felt tears sting the corners of my eyes. The defense tried to twist it. She could have left. She didn't file a report immediately. She continued working after the alleged incident. But Rosa didn't flinch. Because I needed the money. 'Cause I was scared. Because no one would have believed me. Until someone finally did. The courtroom fell silent. Even Roy looked shaken. I was called next. Mrs. Whitaker, the prosecutor asked. How long were you married to the defendant? 52 years. And when did you become aware of this behavior? 3 weeks ago. But looking back, I paused. The signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. And why are you here today? I looked at Roy. Finally. Because silence is how men like him survive. And I won't be silent anymore. By the time we left the courtroom that day, the air outside felt different. Not lighter, but clearer. The verdict would take days, maybe weeks. But deep down I knew. Whether the judge ruled in our favor or not, we had already won something. We had spoken the truth. That evening I cooked dinner for Rosa and Mavis. Nothing fancy, fried okra, cornbread, iced tea. We ate on the porch as the sun dipped below the trees. For the first time in weeks, Rosa laughed. Real laugh. And I realized something. I had spent so many years trying to preserve a house, marriage, name. But what really mattered was the home we were building now. One built on truth, strength, and the kind of love that protects. ChatGPT said. Chapter 11. When Truth Becomes Freedom. 2 weeks later the verdict came in. I was in the backyard, pruning the rose bushes that Roy had never once touched in 52 years of marriage. Rosa had gone back to New Mexico for a short visit with her family, and Mavis was inside making lemon bars. It was a quiet day, the kind that pretends nothing is about to change. Then my phone rang. It was Detective Hayes. "Lorraine," she said gently. "It's done." My heart stopped. I pressed the phone closer. "Guilty," she said. "On 2 counts. The judge didn't even blink. Bail revoked. Sentencing hearing in 3 weeks. He's not walking free again." I sat down on the porch step, heart pounding. "Thank you," I whispered. "No," she said. "Thank you. You started this. You protected that girl. And because of that we got justice. For her, for the others, and for you." When I hung up I didn't cry. I didn't cheer. Breathe. For the first time in decades, I took a full breath that didn't feel borrowed or careful or laced with shame. I was free. Word spread fast. Some neighbors congratulated me. Quietly. Like justice was something shameful to speak out loud. Others avoided me at the grocery store. But I didn't care. I walked taller. Held my head higher. Even bought myself a new dress. Soft green, floral, like spring after a long storm. Rosa called 2 days later. "How does it feel?" she asked. "Like a door just slammed shut," I said. "And I'm standing on the other side, facing something I've never known before." "What's that?" "Peace." She smiled through the phone. I could hear it in her voice. "I'm coming back," she said. "But not as your maid. I want to go back to school. Be a nurse. Help women like me." I smiled, tears welling up again. "I'll be the first person at your graduation." "You better be." That Sunday, I went to church for the first time since the trial ended. I wore my new dress. Walked in alone. Sat in the same third pew where I'd once pretended everything was perfect. But this time I didn't pretend. I worshipped with open hands. And when the pastor said, "The truth shall set you free," I didn't just say amen. I lived it. That night I sat with Mavis on the porch. Cicadas sang. The stars blinked above like they'd been waiting for me to look up again. "You think it's over now?" Mavis asked. I sipped my tea. "No. But it's beginning." She nodded. "You ever think about moving on? You could start fresh somewhere. Sell the house." I looked at the bricks, the windows, the quiet kitchen behind me. "I did think about that," I said. "But no. This house saw a lot of pain. But it also saw me rise. I'm not giving it up. I'm reclaiming it." She smiled. "That's my girl." And in that moment, with the porch light glowing and my oldest friend by my side, I realized I didn't just survive Roy. I outlived him. And I was just getting started. ChatGPT said. Chapter 11. When Truth Becomes Freedom. 2 weeks later the verdict came in. I was in the backyard, pruning the rose bushes that Roy had never once touched in 52 years of marriage. Rosa had gone back to New Mexico for a short visit with her family, and Mavis was inside making lemon bars. It was a quiet day, the kind that pretends nothing is about to change. Then my phone rang. It was Detective Hayes. "Lorraine," she said gently. "It's done." My heart stopped. I pressed the phone closer. "Guilty," she said. "On 2 counts. The judge didn't even blink. Bail revoked. Sentencing hearing in 3 weeks. He's not walking free again." I sat down on the porch step, heart pounding. "Thank you," I whispered. "No," she said. "Thank you. You started this. You protected that girl. And because of that we got justice. For her, for the others, and for you." When I hung up, I didn't cry. I didn't cheer. Breathe. For the first time in decades, I took a full breath that didn't feel borrowed or careful or laced with shame. I was free. Word spread fast. Some neighbors congratulated me. Quietly. Like justice was something shameful to speak out loud. Others avoided me at the grocery store. But I didn't care. I walked taller. Held my head higher. Even bought myself a new dress. Soft green, floral, like spring after a long storm. Rosa called 2 days later. "How does it feel?" she asked. "Like a door just slammed shut," I said. "And I'm standing on the other side, facing something I've never known before." "What's that?" "Peace." She smiled through the phone. I could hear it in her voice. "I'm coming back," she said. "But not as your maid. I want to go back to school. Be a nurse. Help women like me." I smiled, tears welling up again. "I'll be the first person at your graduation." "You better be." That Sunday, I went to church for the first time since the trial ended. I wore my new dress. Walked in alone. Sat in the same third pew where I'd once pretended everything was perfect. But this time I didn't pretend. I worshipped with open hands. And when the pastor said, "The truth shall set you free," I didn't just say amen. I lived it. That night, I sat with Mavis on the porch. Cicadas sang. The stars blinked above like they'd been waiting for me to look up again. "You think it's over now?" Mavis asked. I sipped my tea. "No. But it's beginning." She nodded. "You ever think about moving on? You could start fresh somewhere. Sell the house." I looked at the bricks, the windows, the quiet kitchen behind me. "I did think about that," I said. "But no. This house saw a lot of pain. But it also saw me rise. I'm not giving it up. I'm reclaiming it." She smiled. "That's my girl." And in that moment, with the porch light glowing and my oldest friend by my side, I realized I didn't just survive Roy. I outlived him. And I was just getting started.